Hey there, friend. If you were listening to this, you clearly know about the Choosing to Heal podcast, and hopefully you think it's pretty awesome, and that's why you press play. But today I'm going to be talking about my latest project, which is a complement to this podcast, and that is the Choosing to Heal community and book club. I like to think of this as the sister project of this podcast because the content and the goal is still the same to grow and heal into our best version of ourselves. And so if you love the podcast and you are finding the content to be valuable and you're soaking everything up and you're looking for something that is going to take you to that next level, that is going to fast track this process for you, that's going to provide you with a lot more direction and guidance. Maybe you've been checking out the community and wondering if it's for you, or maybe this is the first time you've heard about it and you're just curious about what it is. Stay tuned because I'm going to be giving you a sneak peek inside, talking about everything that you get when you become a member, how exactly it works, and why it is exactly what you need if you are serious about healing and growing and working on yourself to become the best version of you. So, in case you're unfamiliar with my story, you can either go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2. That's going to give you a lot more context, but I'll just give you the cliff notes. So, in 2021, my life completely turned upside down. And it's when I found out about my former husband's longstanding addiction to pornography and alcohol, and all of his acting out came to the surface. And all of a sudden, I find myself being forced to heal from betrayal trauma, which is something nobody asks for. It's something that you wouldn't ever wish on anybody else. And I had absolutely no idea. I mean, my life was complete and utter pain and turmoil and darkness. It was by far the lowest season and the lowest place that I had ever been in. So I had two options. I could either decide I'm going to completely shut my heart off, never trust people again, people aren't trustworthy, put walls up and stay bitter and resentful. And I had every valid reason to. Or I could lean in and choose to do the hard work, unpack all of the trauma, and choose to heal. Hence the name of this podcast and hence the name of this community. So for the next 2 years, it was the hardest work that I have ever done. I was in therapy 3 times a week. I was in individual therapy, couples therapy, group therapy. I totally cleaned out my emotional closet. And in the process of healing betrayal trauma, it was impossible to do that without facing wounds that existed far before my marriage came along. And if you're in therapy, you know that once you make the decision to start healing, man, oh man, do so many things start to come to the surface. So I was essentially thrown into this pressure cooker of growth and healing. And, out of all 3 of the types of support I had, individual, couples, and group, out of all 3, group was my favorite. It's also the least expensive too. And that was because there was nothing like being seen and understood and validated by others who understood what I was going through. And I'll never forget the very first session. I was so nervous. I had never shared my story with anyone because I felt so much shame and fear around it that people were going to judge me or judge him or the situation. And when they started to share their stories, I just burst into tears because it was the first time that I felt like someone else really understood what I was going through. And I saw myself reflected back in their stories. And they weren't identical. They weren't exactly the same, but they were able to put words to what I was feeling, but was never able to communicate. And it gave me the courage to keep going because the other people in the group were all in different stages of healing, right? I was like the freshly betrayed, totally thrust into complete trauma, fight or flight mode. But there were people who had been in that group for years and were somehow able to have happiness and joy in their life. And I was just in awe of them. Like, wow, if they overcame this, then maybe I can too. So anyway, fast forward, I finally got to the phase of healing where you finally start to see the light again. And yes, that day does come. It can come, even if every day feels like hell, and it did for a very long time. I finally got to a place where all I wanted to do was just keep working on myself, keep growing and healing because, gosh, my life was changing in so many ways. I didn't feel the need to control my former husband or to try to get him to change. I found myself to be more at peace and accepting and able to do things that I never thought possible before. And so I asked myself, how can I spend as much time doing this with my life as humanly possible? And at the same time, I wanted to give back and help others who were hurting because I didn't want anyone else to feel the way that I did when I found out about everything, which was completely and utterly alone. I felt like I was the only one going through it. I felt like nobody would understand. It was awful. And I had so much compassion for others in those dark places, not necessarily from healing from betrayal, but there's trauma and there's hurt and there's pain in all areas of life, no matter what it is. I know that you're experiencing hurt listening to this, and I don't know what that is exactly, but you do. So I had this vision and I thought, like, how can I marry what I know how to do, which is like social media and marketing? How can I marry that with doing this thing that I want to be doing, which is choosing to heal and continuing to work and grow and also help people in the process? And that is when I came up with the vision and the dream for choosing to heal. And while I had never done anything like this before, I had experience with being vulnerable and showing up on social media. So I wanted to marry all of those things together and create a place, a safe place where everyone could come and dig deep and talk about the real hard stuff that nobody else wants to talk about. Like, ditch the highlight reels and the shallow and superficial and just find those people who valued and wanted the same things. I remember when I was at my lowest too, I wanted a handbook. Like, I wanted someone to walk me through and hold my hand and give me the exact step-by-step process for healing. Like, how can I feel better today, right now? Tell me what to do. And while that doesn't exist, I can tell you from firsthand experience, I have learned a thing or two along the way and what has been most helpful just through trial and error. And one of my strengths, if I do say so myself, is being able to break down these big concepts into bite-sized pieces that are easy to understand and digest. You know, that's why I enjoy this podcast so much, is it gives me the ability and the platform to elaborate on these really heavy topics. And so that's exactly what it's like inside of Choosing to Heal. It's a community and it's also a book club. It's both. So it's not just one or the other. And essentially, I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but we use a book as a textbook. And gosh, there's so many amazing, wonderful textbooks out there. There's so many amazing people too to learn from it. And essentially what I do is I create homework and discussion questions and challenges and daily prompts and activities for you to engage with to give you so many different ways to process the information so that you retain that knowledge and you actually are able to apply it to your real life. Because how many times have you read a book or saved a post on Instagram and it's like, okay, that's great, but it doesn't actually translate into real life change? And that is the whole point and the goal of the Choose and Heal community and book club, is to take everything that we are learning, everything that we talk about here on this podcast, everything from relationships to personal development to healing trauma to productivity and creating good habits and all the things that make us the best version of ourselves. There's no topic that's off limits, but it's just an environment to continue to do those things each and every day so that you know you're taking actionable steps towards your goal of healing. So next, I'm going to help you decide whether or not this is right for you. And I'm going to be honest too, because this is not for everyone. So I'm not going to do some big sales pitch where I'm like, this is for you, this is for everyone, because it's not. I even teach that in like branding 101. You will never be for everyone and everything, and that's okay. But this is for you if you feel alone and nobody understands what you're going through. And this can be anything. And something I want to be really clear from the beginning, because I tend to use my own story of healing from betrayal often, that people think that like Choosing to Heal is like healing from betrayal. And while it can be that, it is not only that. It can be healing from low self-worth, healing from comparison and things that we experience every day. It doesn't have to be like deep, heavy trauma, But also, you may have that too. If you just feel alone in anything and you just don't have people to talk to, like maybe your friends and your mom and your family members, like they mean well, but you're not able to really like confide in them about these things, or they're not able to support you in the way that you would like, this is for you. This is also for you if you're starting to wake up and develop self awareness of your unconscious patterns and you're choosing to heal. And my guess is if you're listening to this podcast, that you are someone who is developing that self awareness. Otherwise, you listen to these episodes and be like, this girl is talking a bunch of nonsense. And so I'm just going to go ahead and check that one off the list if you're this far into the episode with me. This is also for you if you want to continue learning and honing those skills to handle what life throws at you, right? So we've done an episode on how to respond and not react. Like, okay, what more can we heal from? I did just recorded an episode about why you are a people pleaser and what to do about it. So stuff like that. If you just want to continue learning and growing in all areas, no matter what they are, this is for you. This is also for you if you understand concepts in your head, but you lack the ability to turn it into real life change. And this is really common. It's like I can know better, but lack the tools and the skills to actually implement them, because that is a huge missing piece that I think is needed when you're healing and you actually want to see change happen in your life. Is you can't just read it. You can't just see it on Instagram. You can't just understand a concept in your head. You have to know how to actually practice it. Like, what do you actually do in order to apply it to your life? And then finally, this is for you if you are ready to take action and prioritize yourself and get serious about healing and growing into the best version of yourself. So if you've been putting yourself on the back burner and you're like, no, it's time for me. This is my healing era. This is the year that I am going to get serious about putting myself first and becoming better and growing and healing. Like, you've been putting off healing because, let's be real, we all have to go through a healthy amount of like denial and avoidance, until we get to a place where you're ready. So until you're ready, and you will know the answer to that, you and only you. And I've even received messages and comments from people who are like, Monica, I know I need to heal, but I'm just not ready. I'm still angry. I'm still just not ready to admit my shortcomings out loud. That's okay. That is part of the journey. But this is not for you if you're not ready to get honest and be ready to look in the mirror and confront yourself. Next, I'm going to quickly run through how you will know if this is not for you. This is not for you if you need professional, personalized one-on-one support. And I want to be extremely clear. This is not therapy. I am not a therapist. I am not even a coach. And I want to make that extremely clear because from the beginning, I never wanted to create Choosing to Heal. And honestly, this was my fear. I never want anyone to look at me as like an expert or a guru. I'm just another girl, just like you, who is trying to show up and grow and learn and figure this thing out alongside of you. And so if you think of this as me as a facilitator and this as a community of people who are figuring it out together, that's what this is. So if you are looking for therapy or personalized professional support, you're not going to find it here. However, this is a great affordable addition or alternative to therapy. You don't have to be in therapy to join the community. But the other beautiful thing is if you are in therapy, especially one-on-one therapy, you're going to get so much out of being in this community that you just can't get in one-on-one therapy. And that's because there's that community piece. And there's some growth and healing that only happens in community with others. So it's also not for you if you can't have empathy or hold space for other people who feel differently than you or have different life experiences. And that's such good news because man, oh man, on social media, it is full with people who have the inability to see things from another person's perspective. And what I love about this is space is outside of social media. It's in a safe space. And you know that the people who are paying to show up to be accountable to this space are people who are practicing empathy, who are good at holding space, or at least learning how to have better empathy skills. This is also not you if you aren't ready to get out of victim mode. And we all operate in victim mode at one point in our life, and we will drive through there and pass through many more times. But if you are under the belief that other people and other circumstances are the reason you are stuck or unhappy or unsatisfied, or like, I'm stuck because he won't change, this isn't going to be for you. And then last but not least, this isn't for you if you're not ready to let others in. And this can be a really, really hard one. And I'm so proud of the women who have chosen to join so far, because I've received messages from some who are so on the fence. They're like, I want to join, but I'm scared to open up. I'm scared to share my story with others. I don't want to do the introduction post. I'm scared. And that is so normal. And that is why I'm such a huge advocate for this community setting, is because when you expose yourself vulnerably to let others in, there is so much opportunity for healing. And that's not to say that you have to participate and share your whole everything with everyone right away from the get-go. You can go through it at your own pace, at your own comfort level. But I will say that when you join, you are setting yourself up to be outside of your comfort zone in a setting where you're going to practice being vulnerable and open and authentic with other people. And it is going to be such a huge growth experience for you. All right, next let's talk about what happens when you join, like how this actual thing works. You're automatically going to gain your people. Like, these are people who actually get it, who speak the language, who listen to the podcast, who are choosing to heal. But not only that, you're going to have a roadmap and an action plan. And my hope is that that's a sigh of relief, because man, oh man, can healing feel so overwhelming at times when there's so much information out there. There's so many books, so many people to follow, so many things to learn, that it can be so overwhelming that you don't even take action because it's like you don't know where to start. So this is going to take the guesswork and the overwhelm out of the equation for you. So all you have to do is show up and you're like, okay, this is what we're working on today. Everyone else is doing it too. Perfect. Boom. It's clear, it's simple, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. So next, I'm going to literally pull up the app on my phone and scroll through every single section of the community and explain what each section is for and what you're going to get out of it. And yes, there is an app that is the coolest thing. And it's essentially like Facebook, but it's not social media. It's a private group setting, but it's easy to navigate. And if you are a Facebook user or you have an Instagram account, it'll be relatively easy for you to navigate through. So when you join, the first thing that you're going to do is be routed to the Start Here section. And this has an onboarding process for you to know exactly what to do first, how to set up your profile, how to get the most out of your time in the community. It's going to have a video from me. You're going to meet other members of our team. It has a bit about our core values and just ground rules for engaging. And then your very first assignment is going to be to say hello and introduce yourself in the introduction section. And we have prompts here for you, so you don't have to like figure out what you're going to write. Everyone answers the same questions. You can film a video if you want. You can share as much or as little as you want. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to start here. Like, you can warm yourself up, engage a little bit until you feel comfortable introducing yourself, or maybe just respond to other people's posts. But that is going to be your first step in stepping outside of your comfort zone and letting people into your story and why you're here and what you're hoping to get out of it. And then we have an FAQ space, a news and announcement space, and a questions space. So you never have to feel like alone or like it's too confusing. There's always going to be support and resources for you to get your answers to your questions. The news and announcement space, so we will recap and do like roundups. And I want to point this out, if you're someone who is like, ooh, I don't know if I can show up every day. I don't know, like, how much do I have to commit to? You can show up as little or as much as you want. It is on you, and it is totally 100% okay if you can't show up as frequently as you would like. You don't have to participate in every post, in every challenge, in every book club event, in every virtual event we have. You get to decide and cherry pick and choose. And we have that news and announcements space to catch you up to speed, because we know, like, we get it. Life happens. You're not going to be able to get every notification. And so we're just going to make it quick and easy for you to get the information that you need as far as what's happening in the community. So next is my favorite part of the community, and that is the accountability section. And this is where you are going to do the work. This is the piece that I find is missing in so many people's journey of healing, is that accountability piece. So we have a daily check-ins space, and every single day there's a different prompt that we post early in the morning. And members have said so far that it's their favorite part of their day because they spend 15 minutes alone in the quiet to reflect and share. And there's other people who are doing the exact same check-in. We have a progress logs section. So this is really cool. It's kind of like a goal tracker that you share with others. So you declare something that you want to work on or that you have a goal on or a project. And it can be small, like I want to read X amount of minutes per day, or it can be big, like I want to launch this big business, or I really want to like do this thing. And it walks you through the steps of how to set a SMART goal. And then we have you check back in with us with your progress. And because you're doing it publicly, we have the ability to check in with you and to support you and to cheer you on, celebrate your wins, encourage you through your setbacks. And it's such a great place to get accountability for whatever it is that you're working on. And it doesn't have to be relevant to like growth and healing specifically. It can be like getting your steps in for the day or whatever. We have a habit tracker for you to download. So that's super fun. We have like a printable PDF version or a Notion template. And then lastly, we have a themed challenge going periodically. So we just wrapped up a people pleasing challenge, which was so awesome and insightful. So much so that I am turning it into a public challenge for everyone outside of the community to participate in. And so every so often, we're going to do these challenges that are around a specific topic. It might be related to the book that we're reading, whereas the daily check-ins are more generic. The challenge is going to have very specific exercises, journal prompts, and challenges related to that area of focus. So in this case, it was people pleasing. All right, the next section is our community section. And this is where you're going to connect with others. We have a coffee chat, which is like anything goes. Just tell us about your day, show us a picture outside of your window. What are you reading? You can post anything and everything in here within reason, of course. And we have a share resource section. So if you found like an awesome YouTube video or someone to follow, you can share it with the rest of us. We have a podcast discussion space, which I think is pretty cool because you get to meet fellow listeners of the Choosing to Heal podcast and you guys can talk about it. So if you're like, man, I really love the episode on people pleasing, well, guess what? You can go comment in the podcast discussion and start a conversation with someone else who's also listened to that episode. We have an area for you to share your story with us. And so if that's something that you haven't done yet, we walk you through like exactly how to do that, like how to share your testimony. We have a member shout out sections because we love to celebrate your wins and your accomplishments. And so if you complete your challenge homework, we will give you an award and recognize you for different things. And if you engage in the community, we want to recognize you for your contribution. We have a live virtual events calendar, so you can see upcoming live events that we do periodically. We do live book club discussions and guest workshops and a lot of things that we're still in the process of planning, and they're different from time to time, and they're just super fun. So you can add those to your calendar. And then we have a place for you to network and make friends. So there's a lot of readers in our community. So you can share your Goodreads handle, your social media handles, what your hobbies are, like who you are outside of just this person who is trying to grow and heal, because that's not the only thing that makes you you. So as you can see, this community isn't just about choosing to heal. Like so much of this is also connecting with people outside of that, and which only further deepens those connections because we get to know all of you, not just like pieces and parts of you. The next section is the content library. So we have an entire space full of journal prompts for different reasons, and we're constantly adding to that. So whether it's goal setting or the week in review or processing through anger and different emotions, we have a ton of different journal prompts. My favorite from the content library is the actual content library, and I've broken up content by topic. So whether it's relationships or boundaries, it's kind of like a roundup of resources. So it's all of the podcast episodes related to the topic, and not just my own podcast, other people's podcasts. I have links to ebooks and resources and courses and books relevant to the topic. So that's fun to sort through, and just, if there's an area of focus that you really want to lean into and learn more about, you can find more resources for you. And then we have an archive of all of our video replays. So if you're not able to join live, which chances are you're not going to be able to every single time, but you can catch up and watch the replays. And last but not least, we have the book club section, which is so fun. Every single month we read a different book, and then it's broken up by week. So you can either read ahead and be an overachiever, which is totally fine. You don't have to follow the pace, but we do have suggested like reading. So week 1, read these chapters. So if you want just it spoon fed to you to know exactly what to do, you can follow our reading plan. And then every single week, we have a downloadable workbook with homework and discussion questions. And we challenge you to share your answers to the homework and the questions inside of our book club space. And what this does is it creates discussion and prompts conversation among other members of the community. So you're not just reading the book alone, you're getting to talk about it and really dig deep into the content each and every week. And then in addition to that, we make shareable quotes and graphics, and we talk about our favorite quotes and excerpts. We even have chapter summaries. So if you're someone who maybe you're not a big reader, but you still like want to know like the content within the book, we even have chapter summaries for you so you can just get the gist of it. And then we have a syllabus with everything that you need for the book club. It's going to have information on the book, why it was chosen, information about the author, what you're going to learn, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, at the very end of the month, we go live to do a live book discussion. And that is when we take it outside of the community to a real live conversation. And a really cool feature about the community, the app, or if you're using it from a laptop, is it allows us to go live within the app. So there's no like Zoom links or anything, and it's super easy to use. It'll pop up with a notification that says book club is live, and then you can click on it and join, just like a Zoom room, but it's private. And that, my friends, is what we have going on inside of the community so far. And that's not to say that it won't be continually upgraded and added to as inspiration strikes, but it's certainly a really great place to start. And I'm confident that you will find more than enough to sink your teeth into. And yeah. So lastly, I wanted to address some of the questions you may have and common questions I've received about whether or not this is right for you. The number one question is this only for people with trauma or like choosing to heal from big traumatic things? So there's a big misconception that you only have trauma if you go through big life-altering events like death or war. But the truth is that everyone experiences trauma, and it's not what happens to you, but it's the meaning and the belief that we assign and create based on what happens to us. So, for example, if someone invites you to prom and you interpret it to mean I'm not wanted, nobody wants me, and then you carry that belief into adulthood by unconsciously attracting unavailable partners or people pleasing to avoid rejection and to feel accepted by other people, that's an example of little t trauma. And we all experience it. We all have underlying trauma and subconscious wounds. And there's always going to be work that we can do to uncover and rewire these unconscious beliefs. And that's exactly what we do inside of Choosing to Heal. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like for anything specifically, but we do cover a broad range of topics that apply to so many different areas of your life, if that makes sense. So the next thing I wanted to address is what you have to do to commit and show up. Like, what does that look like for you? And I kind of touched on this earlier, but you only have to commit and show up to what you are able to commit and show up to. Now, everything is going to be there and available for you, but how much you get out of it is however much you put into it, and that is okay. While we would love to have you show up and hear from you each and every day, that is certainly not required. It's certainly not expected. I really want to make that clear. Like, you're not going to be like docked points or anything for, missing a live event. It's much more casual than that. And also, I don't want to discount the fact that, you are making a commitment to yourself. So you want to take that seriously, right? It's like, if you're going to invest in it, it's such a great opportunity to choose to put yourself first and make this time for yourself. So I hope that answers that question. All right, to wrap this up, I wanted to read a testimonial from a real member inside of the Choosing to Heal community, because I feel like this summarizes what this experience can be like, because it can be an emotional one, and it's a big decision. So she said, I was crying typing my introduction because of all the emotions. It gave me motivation to go deeper than I ever have before. It's giving me something to look forward to, and this is exactly what I needed when I needed it most. If you made it this far, friend, thank you so much for listening. And if you have decided that this is for you, I cannot wait to see you inside and get to know you better, hear your story, and just get to connect with you on a much deeper level. And if you're ready to get started and join, I'm going to leave the link in the episode description so you can find more information and join us as soon as you are ready. See you on the next episode and hopefully inside the community.